Hey everybody, welcome to the OSG Garage. I'm the old slow guy Keith. Today we're going to talk about something, that's a little bit different than we normally talk about, motorcycles and welding and projects like that. Today we're going to talk about dust collection. So during this whole COVID shelter in place, we've been doing a few more projects, mainly woodworking projects. We were able to build this cabinet, this storage cabinet, basically because I couldn't find anything that I wanted that was the right size, that was in my price range. So I grabbed some sheet, 3/4 inch sheet, and I built this. Some 22-inch door slides, full extension, holds a lot of stuff, and took a lot of bins off of my shelf. But when we're doing that, cutting up all this sheet goods made a big mess outside. Now here at the OSG Garage, we don't really have a woodworking shop. I've got an old Sears Craftsman table saw with a kick butt Delta precision saw guide that does a great job of putting together cabinets and things like that. But we have to go outside on the side of the house. And 10 months out of the year in California, that's not a problem. But the problem is you just get a ton of sawdust all over the place, in the grass, on the sidewalk, everywhere else. And there's a great solution for just hooking up, some dust collection like a shop vac, but the shop vac gets clogged up real quick. So what they make are these cyclonic dust collectors. This one's called a Dustopper, and basically it just swirls around the sawdust before it hits the shop vac, and it takes out 99% of it, and it basically just puts it down in the bottom of this 5-gallon bucket. They're real efficient and they work really well. But as you can see with the hoses and the hookups, it kind of gets a little cumbersome and in the way. So I saw some solutions of these guys building some stuff online where they basically take some PVC, make a little stand up on the top of that thing for this to sit on. So I'm going to do something like that, but instead of using PVC and cutting and gluing it all together, I'm going to go through the hidden secret stash of scrap metal that I have in the corner, some tube and some angle iron, and I'm going to weld up a little solution for that. I think what we're going to do is use these little accessory feet here for some kind of a cylinder and build everything up off of that with some supports. Okay, so let's get to it, huh? Let's figure it out as we go. So for the feet on these things, I've got some 22 gauge sheet metal here, and I've got I'm going to use a mandrel to kind of bend them into a circle, and what I've got for that is an old hole saw that I have. And the great thing about the hole saw is this is perfect size for what I need right now. But you can mount one end of it in the vise, and the inside is available so you can put clamps around it to form the piece you're looking for. Now this one is beat to crap because I tried cutting through stucco at our house and just totally tore it up. It works really, really good for being a mandrel. So one of the first things I did was to figure out how much long of a piece of stainless I had. And this is a little tip that I got from somebody on YouTube. Using some painter's tape to kind of run around, and you kind of loop whatever you want to check, and then cut it in half, and that's the distance that you need. So the piece I had a 12-inch piece, and in order to get 2 pieces out of it, 1.5 inches wide, I went a little smaller than I needed here, and you can see the tape is a little smaller. But it's going to work out pretty good. So then I basically clamped this onto my mandrel, which is another reason that this thing is so great with that little hole saw, because you can use the cup of it. You got something to hold on in the vise, and then you've got a wall stock to clamp onto. So you kind of use one clamp in the back, kind of spread it around, and then grab some vice grips, and you kind of keep moving it and bending it, and you end up with a pretty well formed piece. Now on the front of this thing, I've got a little tab that I'm going to use to kind of keep the seam together, and then I think I can use this also to weld the tube legs onto it. You see there how it kind of looks. So that should work pretty good. So I'm going to tack weld this thing in place, and put a couple 3 tacks on each side, and then take it over and clean it up a little bit on the belt sander, And then you can pretty much see how this thing is going to fit together. These little circular pieces then are going to go into the 4 accessory holders on the legs of the shop saw. And because I've got that flat on the one side, it gives me a really good landing place for the square tube to go on. Now I'm going to measure here too. I'm just kind of roughing this out so I know about how much to cut these things, and I think we're going to land on about 21 inches here, which should work pretty good. So one other thing we need to do now is figure out the width across the flats on those pieces. It's about 20 inches, and we're going to use this measurement later when we get the board that the dust collector will sit on. So going over to the scrap trailer, that's basically what we have in our driveway is the scrap trailer. We're going to cut off a piece about 21, 22 inches square, and then we'll kind of just rough this out for right now and use it to figure out how we're going to mount the legs on. We'll cut this into a circle later. I've got some tricks on how I'm going to do that as well too. So I've got this angle iron here. I'm going to weld the ends of the rods on. These are going to kind of transition from the upright support, and I'll drill a hole in them so we can put some screws in there to screw down to the platform. So we're just going to split this into 4 equal pieces. I really don't care too much about the size of it at all. I just want to basically just chop it up. I'm just kind of dicing it up into 4 pieces here. Nothing fancy. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point, that's for sure. So a little bit of cleanup here on the belt sander, and then we're going to drill the holes in it for the wood screws that are going to mount to the underside of the platform. I'm using about a 3/16 drill here. I've got some of these flathead lath screws that work pretty good because the heads don't snap off when the wrench hits them under torque. So that works out really, really well. All right, so now that we got our brackets cut and we've got our angle pieces here with a little hole in the middle for mounting, kind of have everything mocked up here. I've got the side brackets on a couple 1, 2, 3 blocks clamped down pretty good. I've got a little magnetic 90-degree bracket there, so I know this is square to this is parallel to this, and then this is here, so that should be pretty close. Okay, so we're gonna put a couple tacks in there, and we're good to go. So at this point, I'm basically laid out where I wanted the 4 legs to go, and kind of screwed each one down in the kind of out on the diameter that I wanted. I just put 1 screw in here for right now. And once all the legs were on, now I still don't have the bottom pieces on, so I put them down there on the accessory holders that you see down there. Use a little scrap piece of lumber here to space them off. And from there, I clamped them down to the 4 little feet down there on the accessory holders. So at this point, I was just checking to make sure that each one was pretty much the level that I wanted them at. And you can see I've got clamps on each one of the corners there. And from there, we went ahead and welded them up. Now I was careful here to only put a few tacks in there and not completely weld them, because I didn't want to heat those pieces up so much on the bottom that I'd melt those accessory feet down there. And here I'm just tacking on a little cord holder on the one side here just something to wind up the cord. I thought this would be a little bit easier to do than trying to wrap it on the top there anymore. So now I took apart the top piece so I can make this thing pretty much round. And I saw this trick using a cross-side sled online a few times. And this is really the first time I tried using it. So screwing it down to the center here and just slowly kind of chopping away at it. And at one point you kind of just leave it and spin it. It works pretty good for getting things round. So now with everything pretty much round, I've taken back into the shop and we mounted the rest of the legs on it and basically went to final assembly. So we put the thing back on for pretty much last time, wrapped the cord around the cord keeper, and we're ready to figure out how to keep the barrel on the top. So I pretty much got the thing centered up and figured with some scrap lumber I could probably make some cleats just to kind of keep the thing in the center. So we went over to the scrap pile and found some pieces and screwed the thing down. So one of the last things we had to do was something to hold the bucket down into the cleats, because I know it could tip over and move around. So I kind of, again, got some scrap out, cut a big hole in the top of it, and I'm basically going to use this piece of wood. I'm going to clean it up a bit, put some radiuses on it, and maybe some bungee cords, and we'll hold this thing down to the side. So you can see here we cleaned it up, we made some radiuses on it, made it a little prettier. I think what I'm going to do is drill a couple holes in there, pull a bungee cord through and knot it, and then clip it down to the legs of the machine. I think that'll be pretty straightforward fix for this thing. So I took one of my my Harbor Freight cheapo bungees. We tied a knot in one end, and kind of fed through this adjustable clip on the other side. So once we kind of got everything where we wanted, we centered everything up, got the sizes where we needed them to be, and got it all aligned. So guys, pretty much wraps it up for today. As you can see, I've got the cleats on here to hold the bucket in place. We put some little bungee apparatus here to hold the bucket down. And I've got enough room on this plate here where I can add the rest of the accessories, some holders and stuff for the accessories. Now one thing I do want to add on this thing is I've got this one right angle connector right now, and I need another one so I can connect this short stubby hose here for the tube pickup, from the vac. Now I found them over at Woodcraft, so I'm going to order a couple of them and send them on in. But other than that, this thing is basically done. Hey everyone, thanks for following us today on the OSG Garage. Hope you like the project. Remember to hit subscribe and hit like. Don't forget to leave comments down below as well too. I love to hear what you have to say about the project. You can find us on Instagram at OSG_garage. That's it for now. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.